Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is here, and so is its 50GB Day 1 patch. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One players that bought physical copies of the game had to download the massive patch yesterday. Digital pre-orders include a preload that automatically installed the patch ahead of the game's launch. Patch aside, Black Ops 4 is the first AAA game with a dedicated Battle Royale mode. It's still too early to tell if the game's launch overall has been a success, but there's no denying the hype for Blackout is real. On PC, the game is currently capped at 120 FPS. In a recent interview with Eurogamer, the developers said their goal is to provide an uncapped frame rate after launch. They're monitoring server performance to ensure that the game plays properly at higher frame rates and will unlock it assuming everything goes smoothly. Blackout might also be getting a day-night cycle assuming it doesn't hurt performance. As for the actual quality of the PC port, it's again a bit too early to tell how good it is. The Blackout beta went pretty well despite the obvious bugs and unpolished aspects. But with the full release, there's a lot more to take in. One thing's for sure, the options menu is incredibly comprehensive. Be sure to stay tuned for a full Blackout review once the game has been out for a little while. The latest blog posts for Battlefield 5 detailed the game's weapon and vehicle specialization options. During the beta, it was revealed that upgrading weapons would have two sides. One was attachments, and the other was specialization system that boosted weapon stats like recoil and ADS speed. Each gun would have two specialization trees that players would have to pick their upgrades from. Unfortunately though, picking one side of the tree or a combination of upgrades really locked you in to that specific set of upgrades. If you wanted to test out some of the other upgrade options, you'd have to buy a duplicate of that gun. You also couldn't respec guns on the fly. The good news is that DICE has revamped the system. At launch there will be multiple trees per weapon, but players can respec guns and won't have to buy duplicates to get all of the weapons unlocks. When it comes to vehicle specializations, they play a much more significant role in how vehicles function overall. The Panzer IV's options include smoke launchers, a PaK-40 cannon, armor-piercing rounds, improved turret speed, field repairing, and more. Basically, it sounds like unlocking specializations is going to be much more important for vehicles than for weapons. DICE also revealed new details about Battlefield 5's bullet penetration system. In previous titles, bullets either did or didn't pass through an object. All bullets, regardless of caliber or weapon, also did basically the same amount of damage to the object they passed through. In Battlefield 5, these mechanics have been totally overhauled. Bullets will affect surfaces based on their caliber, leaving larger impacts the bigger the round is. Pistols will only penetrate thin materials like cloth and glass. SMGs and shotguns can punch through light structures and cover. Rifles and LMGs will break through walls in wooden buildings. Heavy machine guns and even vehicle rounds will devastate heavier cover like sandbags. Tons of new information about Star Citizen was announced at CitizenCon, the game's annual conference event. A new single-player trailer showcased the game's improved character models and gave us more info about the backstory. An hour-long gameplay demo showed off a new city area complete with interactive mass transit, in-atmospheric flight, and ground combat. New ships were revealed, including the Kraken carrier ship. The devs also showcased a new face tracking system that uses your webcam to replicate your facial expressions in-game. The reveals weren't without their usual moments of jankiness, especially the facial capture feature. But overall, CitizenCon was pretty incredible this year. There's so much new info and stuff to look forward to. I covered the major things in a recent video, but there's so much more to talk about. Be sure to stay tuned for more. The Battle Royale that lets you spawn with a weapon, Hunt Showdown, is getting a new map. Called Lawson Delta, it looks a bit more urban than the game's current swampland map. The teaser footage doesn't reveal much. More info will be announced later this month during TwitchCon. The map will be released shortly after the event. Cyberpunk 2077's developers are apparently working on proper multiplayer for the game. They just announced a long-term partnership with Digital Scapes. They previously worked on several notable multiplayer titles, including Dying Light and Company of Heroes. Multiplayer is certainly a goal for the game, but the devs are still committed to the full single-player experience before the real work begins on any online functionality. Borderlands 2 is being ported to PlayStation VR. It'll cost $50 and release on December 14th. Of all the VR hardware that's been released so far, PlayStation VR is actually one of the most successful products. It sold over 3 million units and has a massive library of games to play by VR standards. That said, a $50 re-release of a game from 2012 can be looked at as a tough sell. It's also a single player only, removing the game's hugely popular co-op mode. The silver lining is the port will be tailored for the VR experience and is being explicitly balanced for the single player mode. Skills and abilities originally intended to complement the co-op experience are being rebalanced for the single player. A new ability is also being added in that will slow down time so players can plan their attack in the heat of combat. A bug that deleted user data in last week's big Windows update has finally been fixed. Users that opted to install the October update found that folders were being deleted under specific circumstances. We previously reported on this update because it included the DirectX ray tracing API needed to enable the feature on NVIDIA's new RTX video cards. Apparently, Microsoft knew about the issue well before the update's launch, angering many users who had their files deleted. Intel is in hot water following the announcement of their new CPU, the i9-9900K. The press release included benchmarking data from an independent testing company called Principled Technologies. The data compared the 9900K to AMD's 2700X 8-core CPU. Of the many issues with the data, most notable is Principled ran the 2700X with AMD's game mode enabled. This mode temporarily disables half the cores on the 2700X, sacrificing core count for speed, which can give better performance in some games. They also used a much beefier cooler for the Intel CPU. The end result was data that paints a wildly inaccurate picture of the new CPU's performance. Other hardware reviewers were under embargo, preventing them from releasing more accurate data. Tech companies using third parties as scapegoats for lousy marketing is nothing new, but using embargoes as a means of suppressing information about new products is frustrating, to say the least. Xbox insiders can now access the Fallout 76 beta. If you want to play, you'll have to pre-order the game, have an Xbox Live Gold subscription, and download the Xbox Insider Hub app. Assuming you meet these requirements, you should be able to access the beta now. Players on other platforms or that aren't in the Xbox Insiders program can access the beta starting on the 23rd. Overkill's The Walking Dead is now in closed beta. Pre-order customers on PC can play the upcoming co-op survival game ahead of its launch in November. The closed beta includes 2 missions and 2 camp defense scenarios. The beta is expected to continue until release and will get more content over time. Customers that bought the game's deluxe edition will be given 4 beta codes, leaving 3 that they can give to friends. In our final story this week, Fortnite's Android beta is now open for all users. The mobile version of Fortnite has been available on iOS and Android since earlier this summer. Until now, the Android version was limited to people that signed up and were granted an invitation. And that concludes today's episode of This Week in Gaming. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned as we have a lot of Blackout coverage coming up, leading up to a review and some secret content that I can't talk about just yet, but you should be seeing it this coming week. I'll see you guys next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.